Raising our frequencies at the end of the day is about raising the frequency of the planet. It is important that we bring ourselves in touch with people that are not in that place.
Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I'm so glad to have you back. And today we've got a very special guest. Her name is Aline Rahem, and she is one of the most amazing people because what she does is she's an energy healer. She's a mentor, a teacher, as well as an author. But what really attracts her near and dear to my heart is that she guides people to raise their frequency. As you know, I've been trying to help people raise their vibration and spiritual awareness. So she's literally on the same wavelength, if you'll excuse the pun. And she also is trying to foster sort of a direct connection to the divine, very much like what we've been doing here, and really focusing on love, joy, purpose, which is really what I think we're all trying to do. So with that, Aline, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. Super excited to talk to you today.
Oh, not more than me. I can't wait to talk to you. This is something that I absolutely love, which, people have probably, gotten sick of me talking about forever and ever. But what I love talking about is energy and vibration, especially, we can look at even quantum physics. Quantum physics now has gotten to the point where they've said, yes, everything in existence is energy and it's just vibrating at different frequencies. So talk to us about your understanding about energy and the vibration of either matter or the vibration of existence itself. How's that for an existential question to open?
Yeah, everything is energy. It's like nothing is just solid, right? Even what we feel is just solid. It's just an optical illusion. It's just energy moving in a very different speed, so slow that it looks solid. I've been in the spiritual path for a very long time. I had my first initiation when I was 14, and I've done years and years of daily spiritual practices of over 5 hours a day. And it came to a point of conclusion that everything is just frequency. That for me was a big moment because I know that a lot of people talk about that. It is a huge topic, actually, a topic that can be a little bit oversimplified sometimes, Some people go with this thing, okay, everything's just frequency, so let's just raise our vibration, let's just celebrate and dance. And not realizing that actually can create a lot of shadows and not necessarily increase our vibration. So the work of increasing our frequency and having a higher vibration is a very big spiritual work. It has many traps. There are many small things, many details that can take us out of the path. So I enjoy talking much about it in a very practical way, but also in a deep way to not get into those traps. Because for me, the purpose is to sustain high frequency. Everybody can visit high frequencies and living in a high vibration for 1 or 2 days. We all can have a beautiful celebration day, and but then out of nowhere we go down. We don't have this ability to manage our frequency, manage our energy, just like emotional intelligence and attitude. We can do the same with frequencies. We can learn how to master them, which requires a lot of self-mastery. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a huge spiritual work. I also like to tell people this thing that, sometimes we have a day that is so full of problems, we're just like so concerned, so full of worries. And the next day, all those problems haven't been solved. They still exist, but for some reason we are singing and we are dancing. So the configuration of life doesn't change from one day to the other, but how we feel changes. That's because how our frequency changes. It's just that we're not aware that it's changing. And because of that, we're not aware of how to work with it and to manage it, to actually sustain a place where everything becomes easier.
I mean, you brought up a great point. We all are, becoming more and more aware of the fact that, vibration is everywhere. I think it's becoming wider, more and greater acceptance. But you brought up a great point. How do we actually sustain a vibration of certain levels? Because to your point, our emotions go up and down based on the reactions. And while it's great to say, we are in control of how we respond to other people and other situations, how do we actually act on that? How do we actually sustain that for a longer period of time? Because whenever I try to practice the concept of staying positive, for example, I find myself barely doing it for a short period of time. And I say, watch out, people, this is going to happen to you too.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really, really big job. It is possible, but it is kind of a full-time job
Yeah.
to manage frequencies, at least at first, to create that expertise and that self-mastery. And this is the method that I have developed that actually I received, because that moment that I said that I realized everything is just frequency, it came to me together with one of those minutes that it seems like you just receive a whole 1,000-page book.
Like
It
a
just
download.
yeah, it's just a downloaded with a method with many pillars that have to be in place. And it was a very serious message because it was really focusing on the fact that, yeah, this is the work, but it's a hard work. It's not just celebrate life. There's a lot of cleaning to do to get to that place in an authentic, sustainable way.
Yeah, a lot of shadow work to do too.
Yeah, because one aspect is definitely to do things that raise our frequency, like laughter and singing and loving and dancing. There are many things that we can do for that. But another aspect is to keep grounded, to take care of our nervous system, because those high frequencies, they are high level electricity, energy. If we are not grounded and if our system is not safe and open, they can electrify us. It's really hard to sustain a place of ecstasy for a long time. And that's why many people burn out and go down and have these peak experiences that are followed by low experiences. I do believe we don't have to have a roller coaster of a life. The way that I see it, we can go from neutral to high and stay in this band without going lower. If we understand the frequencies and what is the things that are bringing us down, we can work to manage them in a way that they don't bring us down. But that requires quite a few things. So one of them is definitely grounding, nervous system, to not get caught up. Because the moments that we are in a high vibration, we get in this trap that we are invincible, that we can do whatever we want and we are fine. And that is the moment that we start doing things that actually are traps from our ego to bring us down, such as alcoholic drinks, thinking that you can just have a drink and you'll be fine. Oh, no, no, no. You can be sure the next day your vibration is going to go lower because of that. But in that moment, you felt invisible. So there's these traps that require a lot of self-mastery and discernment when they are presented to us, to say no to these temptations, to these desires, understanding that that thing has a lower frequency and will bring us down.
Interesting.
Yeah. So also increasing our energetic capacity, working with purification, activation, circulation of energy, because to be able to stay in that higher frequency, again, it's high level electricity currents. It's much more energy flowing through you. So your energetic capacity has to be strong. We're living in a moment where many people say, I'm too sensitive. I cannot handle this. I cannot handle how I feel this. And I'm sorry to say this, but that doesn't work if that is how we handle energy. Sensitivity has two aspects to it. One is the sheer possibility, capacity of feeling. And the other one is the capacity of handling what we feel. When we work with circulation, with purification, with strengthening our nervous system, we are increasing our capacity of handling what we feel. And this is essential to live in a high frequency.
Sounds almost, yeah, I was going to say, it sounds almost like talking about just an electricity grid in the country. And you say, okay, well, this certain electricity grid has to have the capacity to handle the full volume of this electricity. Otherwise, if it doesn't have the ability to handle the load, there'll be a blackout. It'll fall apart. Sounds almost identical to that. Is that a fair comparison?
That's exactly what it is. And I wrote down this example you gave because I thought it was phenomenal, because that is exactly what it is. We are a vessel and we are running on this electricity, this light current. And we need to be able for the current to run through us. It is very easy. We can see in people that participate in rituals and different spiritual experiences. Some people handle the experience very well. Some don't. They like crash after. It's very strong for their system. So there is this thing that we do need to have strength. It is very hard to work with spirituality at a certain level without being energetically strong. Our ability to how much energy we can handle, it puts a ceiling in how much we can expand spiritually. So if we're talking about spiritual growth, if we're talking about living in a high frequency, we need to become very strong energetically.
And how do we do that? How do we raise our capacity to handle greater loads?
So different exercises that we do first to purify ourselves so that our blockages don't hold us back, and for activating and circulating. So if we go to like Qigong or yoga or many other spiritual lineages, we can take practices from them that are focusing on that. Actually, a lot from yoga is based exactly on that, in helping us purify and activate energy. It's just that the way that we do yoga these days, that is more just focusing on the physical aspect. Sometimes we don't realize that. But when we are hardcore on it, our energy system changes completely. I come from this more like initiatory path where we do a lot of rituals and a lot of invocations and prayers. We're constantly calling in the divine to us, and this is doing exactly the same thing. So there's different ways, like different traditions. We work with this differently. And when I work with this with clients, I work differently if the person is an initiate and not an initiate, because then they will be able to handle energy differently. Initiation itself expands the capacity as well.
Okay. And is it also something along the lines of maybe either energy clearing or going to, let's say, sound healing or chakra opening? Are those also other practices that would help as well?
They do. It's just that it is important to have daily practices. This is an ongoing effort, and I am an energy healer myself, and I provide this a lot. And I see that those sessions have given me as well in my path much, but they catalyze something. If we are doing something daily, if we have daily practices, then the healing sessions, they catalyze the movement of the energy. But if we just rely on energy sessions but are not doing the daily work, it's not the same thing. It's almost like taking supplements for an athlete, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just band-aids, I guess. It's kind of like band-aids rather than getting to the core issue.
Yes.
Interesting. So are some of the daily practices, just meditating or doing yoga at home or, focusing on our chakras at home every day? What can people do every day to try to begin this, progression along that path?
It's very different person to person. Because it depends on what kind of aspects they need more support with in these different pillars. There are certain things everybody can do for the nervous system, for instance, like everybody can shake every day is really good. Shaking is really good to soothe the nervous system so that when the higher energies come, we don't get freaked out by them. Stretching, especially our lower bodies, staying longer periods of time in different stretching positions, that helps us ground. So I do think the grounding and the nervous system aspect is very important, because some people, you're having a normal day and an energy comes and you kind of give it a shake, or kind of your system easily freaks out with energy. That's normal. And it is by grounding and soothing the nervous system that we're able to stay there. And that is the first aspect, to simply be able to stay with the energy. It is very unconscious of the body when there is a higher level of energy to kind of like, freak out a little bit. It's
Yeah.
normal.
So it definitely sounds like grounding is a great daily practice, even if it's only for a few minutes, just to kind of get that flow. And it also sounds like just daily exercise, whether it's walking or going to the gym or something, which gets your body in motion, gets your organs in motion, gets your heart racing. I think that also helps ground as well as helps get the electricity in your body going as well. Is that another thing?
Absolutely. I mean, exercise removes the stagnant energy as well. So in a way, we are clearing things. And also makes us stronger. There's many people in spirituality that think that they don't need to have a strong body, but actually, being strong helps you greatly to do great energy work. Your body has to be capable of handling a strong energy. Like a weak body doesn't work well with a strong spirit. So, yeah.
And that also sounds like it's not only just exercise and helping your body, it's also what you eat, because as they say, you are what you eat. And so if you're eating unhealthy foods or you're allowing your body just to kind of fall apart and you begin to look what you eat. And so it sounds like that attention to the body is the shrine to the spirit concept is actually a quite an apt one.
Yes, definitely. That goes into purification. So when we talk about purification, there are actual exercises that we can do to purify ourselves, but we need to also contemplate these other aspects: what we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the thoughts that we put into our minds, the conversations, the entertainment. So all of those things are actually polluting us if we're not being thoughtful of what we're allowing inside of us.
And that raises the immediate thought that I know I'm guilty of sometimes, although I try not to be. You brought up entertainment. In this society, in this culture, it seems like there's this thirst for violence and drama in the entertainment industry that's just unsatiated. And I
Yeah.
get the impression that this violent things that we watch or hear, we kind of absorb. It's energy, in fact, that we're absorbing. So it's violent and low vibration energy that we're absorbing in these things that we watch on TV or the news that we watch even. Is that something that we should be aware of?
The lyrics of the music we listen to,
Oh, yeah.
everything. We're consuming everything. We don't pay attention normally because we're consuming so much, there's just so much advertisement and entertainment and music, like everywhere we go, that we don't fully pay attention to it. But I had once to do this process for 3 months with my teacher, where I was not allowed to listen to any music. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody besides the necessary, no movies, no books, no reading, nothing, 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 nothing. And I mean, I'm already quite disciplined in that sense in my daily life, so I didn't think that was going to make a huge impact on me. But boy, it was insane. Like after you get out of that, you just watch one thing and you realize how much it is bringing into your mind, and you get really like aware of how much more we are absorbing than we think.
It probably it probably shocks you. You're like, whoa, this is much more painful than I realized.
Yeah.
Wow. And I guess that also makes me now think on like monks who sit in silence for long periods of time. You would normally think, oh, that's just not possible, but I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to purge all that, garbage and keep themselves, I guess the word comes in as pure, i.e., not exposing themselves to all this garbage that would normally be coming in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. It's a big work, and
A lot
when
of
people
work.
start on this path, like spirituality, expecting to heal very fast, and of course, some things change very fast, but we do need to give ourselves a slack that years of conditioning and of consuming so much, it will take its time to clear, and that's okay. No, it's part of being self-compassionate and patience and self-love to understand that there's so much more than we think to
Yeah.
clear.
And so it sounds like the first order of business, if a person was to begin raising their vibration or heading that direction, the first order of business would be, I guess it's kind of like building the foundation of a house. You got to start with a good foundation. So I guess the first thing you do would be make sure that you're clearing all the garbage that is in there. It's kind of like going to a house, making sure that you're creating the strong ground. You're clearing the ground and making sure it's a strong, firm area. So you've got to clear that area of all the things that are around you that are causing you the negativity. So we've spoken about, the news, the music, the movies, the food, perhaps various addictive things like either cigarettes or alcohol or things that are not positive for your body. What other things should people begin to consider as they're trying to create this good foundation for their spiritual house and their vibration?
A few things are like person to person, depending on their behaviors. Screen time, technology, when it's not intentional. Of course, if I am very focused, I have a very specific thing to do behind the computer, it's fine. It's not like we are not to use technology at all, but to not be absorbed by it, because then it starts draining our energy. To not get caught up on things is very important. The moment that we're caught up on anything, we completely lose our presence and our energy. So it can be not getting caught up in the news or in dramas of life. To have that emotional intelligence is really important. So this kind of behaviors that we have, these patterns of the things that we keep looping on and worrying about, to break those, because negativity really will bring down our focus. And I don't mean to like put things under the carpet. I'm not saying to ignore things. It's just the approach, how we deal with things, how emotionally involved we get on things, that has to change. In this aspect, one thing that I hear a lot that is a huge trap of people talking about high frequencies, that they don't talk to people with low frequencies. They don't go to places in low frequencies. That is the problem. We don't want to create a life that is, how you say in English, compartmentalize?
Oh, compartmentalize, right.
Yes. Because, I mean, of course, when we're just learning about it, we're just training about it, we might need to take a little bit of care while we master ourselves. But raising our frequencies at the end of the day is about raising the frequency of the planet. It is important that we bring ourselves in touch with people that are not in that place, so that we can help them to come up simply by being there. Sometimes it's just our presence that changes it. And it is a very crucial aspect to understand that if I want to keep anything for myself, that's scarcity, that's fear, and that's selfish. That will always bring frequency low. Anybody who thinks like that will limit their frequency. Sharing, giving raises frequency. It's like being a candle lighting other candles. It will just expand the light. And that's crucial to understand, that as we master our frequency, it is our duty to be around people with lower frequencies so that we can make a difference, so that the world can actually change. But how do we do that in a way that we don't get hurt? We need to establish that self-mastery, that emotional intelligence of being there without getting emotionally involved and caught up, with being able to hold our energy and being centered anywhere we go. That centeredness itself is a high frequency in neutrality that doesn't allow to go lower, that doesn't get triggered. Every time we're getting triggered, that's a lower frequency in us that needs healing. So the higher we can keep our frequency, the easier for us is to be centered, no matter where we are and no matter who we are with.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've often, because I know when I do either mediumship readings or trance readings, what often comes through is it's this awareness of like I'm a lighthouse or something. I'm shining light on, the areas where there are no light. One example was like, lighting a coast for the ships so they wouldn't run aground. So that whole concept of being the light to enlighten other people. If you've got the light, share the light.
Yes.
That's great.
That's really the work. It's just that sometimes we need to walk a little bit further on the path to understand that is what it truly is all about.
Yeah, it's like, and the brighter your light, the more you can bring that light to bear to other people, and the more people you can connect with, and they'll just become, lighter themselves, and you'll become a magnet.
Exactly. And then the more grounded you are, the more you can circulate energy, the stronger your system, the more you can hold that space and keep shining no matter what is going on around you. So it's a work that keeps reinforcing itself, it just keeps circulating energy. To never think that we have to hold it for ourselves, that will bring it down. But if we keep circulating and sharing and taking care of ourselves so that we can sustain it, then we are in a really beautiful track.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because what you just mentioned was something very important. We're not trying to change the vibration just for ourselves. We're trying to change the vibration of ourselves for those around us.
Yes. And when we begin in this place, normally we're not in a good place. We are in a place that we want to feel more love and more joy. So I understand that we begin from that perspective of, I want a better life for myself. But eventually, as we feel that joy, as we feel that love, we can't help but share it. That's the natural tendency of love and joy. They cannot be held back. When we love, we just want to share and express that love, So sometimes when people hear us, they might not really resonate with it. But I assure you that when we feel that love, when we get there, there's no other way of being.
Yeah, it's actually, the way I want to say it is, it's our natural state, but we keep on sliding back down away from that natural state, away from the joy, away from the happiness, away from the love, away from the positivity. And it's like a slippery hill that we just keep on sliding back down, especially in modern society where everything's going a mile a minute. Everything's like, okay, you got to spend. It's consumerism. It's,
Yeah.
it's not for the greater good of yourself, your family, those around you. It just sort of seems like society's intention is almost going backwards.
Yeah, I mean, we are trapped in quite a low frequency of being. And one thing that we also have to understand here is the importance of the nervous system on that, because the nervous system always brings us to what is normal to us. That is what is safe. And when we talk a lot about joy or love, those are higher frequencies. Even if we experience them 1 hour a day, that is a higher electricity that we're going through. And if that's not normal for our nervous system after 1 hour or two will bring us down. It's very normal when we are in a situation where we have a lot of pleasure and a lot of fun. Out of nowhere comes a worry. Out of nowhere comes awkward laughter. Out of nowhere comes a tiredness. Those are side effects of not being able to hold that higher frequency, because it is a higher electricity. So working with the nervous system and grounding is a way to prepare the body to not get so freaked out by this higher energy, so that you can stay in joy a little bit longer every time. So you can stay in pleasure a little longer every time. We do need to stretch the nervous system to be able to do that. We have so many traps of discomfort every day that we don't realize that they are actually just our body not being able to hold better.
It definitely sounds like you're talking about like the balance, making sure that there is at least a balance, because there's this homeostasis that the body wants to maintain. And if it's not used to one level, it's always going to bring it back to a homeostasis at the level that it was used to before. So if we can just keep on raising that equilibrium level, then eventually we won't be sliding backwards.
Yes, it's a baseline. We have a baseline of safety. It's what people normally say, the unknown, that when we go to the unknown, we don't know how to deal with it. I just like to see it as what is normal and what is safe. And it is really a physiological thing. It's your body trying to protect you. And then we have to have this process of teaching our body that it's okay, that it is safe, that it can handle that higher energy. It's something that we can work very fast, actually, can change very fast.
That's an interesting question. How fast can not only this equilibrium be raised and the entire vibration be raised so that your new normal becomes higher? How fast could that, take place?
That changes a lot person by person, also depending on the traumas that they have that are affecting their nervous system. But I mean, if you do practices for 2 weeks for soothing your nervous system, you're already going to start feeling difference. So and then we start combining, then we first nervous system, and then we start purifying, and then we start circulating, it's more
baby steps.
It's baby steps, but this continuum, the fact that it's a daily practice, that is what is changing your energetic body. It's not just doing something once. It's nurturing.
That's great. It's the nurturing. It's the baby steps. But I think, and this is what I always tell people about meditation. It's not the length. It's the consistency that is the most important aspect of it. So if we're consistent about these practices of grounding, of clearing, of soothing our nervous system, that alone over time will help us begin to move that equilibrium higher and higher. And then when you begin to layer on the other practices of the yoga, the healthy eating, the clearing of all the negative influences and inputs that you receive, it sounds like that's just a building block on top of that strong, firm foundation that you've cleared away.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this work. It's beautiful because you can see progress really fast. It does require commitment, though, because the key is self-mastery. It's really giving yourself to this kind of work, because it's not, it's so practical in a way, you see the effects so fast in your everyday life. And it is pure spiritual expansion. It is 100% your energy body.
You know what that sounds like? It's the determination and the perseverance, and it sounds exactly like what you might think about if you're trying to go to the gym and either lose weight or build muscle or whatever it is you have a goal to achieve, and you're like, okay, January 1, I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna get this goal, and yes, it's fantastic, and well, guess what? You start to lose it unless you've got that intense determination, and that sounds like what this requires as well, that perseverance.
Yes, and I think one thing that I find beautiful in spirituality is that part where we say, I'm not my thoughts, I have thoughts. I am not my feelings, I have feelings. I am not my body, I have a body. I am not my desires, I have desires. And many people end at that. But when we ask ourselves, then what am I? And an important component of the soul, of your real self, is your willingness. Your will is a divine attribute. And your will has to be stronger than your thoughts, than your feelings, than your desires, and than your body. It is when you have this identification with your willingness higher than those that you are allowing your soul to direct this vessel. And then transformations catalyze, because now you're a divine being ruling your physical existence.
That's amazing. And the one thing that Spirit has always told us is that thoughts are the most powerful things in existence. Is that if we have the thought, we have the thing, and the thoughts are equivalent to will. If we think it, we will it. And the will, as you said, is that divine attribute that we have. All we need is to maintain the will. That will is the thought. That is going to go forward, and you have it.
Yes, and that's why it's almost impossible to talk about spirituality without meditation, because meditation is clearing the mind so we can keep the focus, so we can stay with the will, because it's very easy for us to want something, but then get sidetracked and other thoughts come through and some anxieties come through, So to train the real mind, the higher mind, the mind of spirit, where that will comes from, above this monkey mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love that monkey mind. Yeah, I'm always teaching people you gotta let that monkey mind just chill out. Give it, NyQuil or something, and let it go to sleep. And in your meditation, it will just learn to calm down. It's not going to go away. You'll hear it, but it's just going to be a little bit less obnoxious. Oh gosh. So what? I mean, one of the things that I am always, loving to hear is that people so easily get confused or distracted. They may have great will and great determination, great desire, but it seems like it would be so easy, and also just not only to get sidetracked, but to be confused almost. Like, okay, I've got all these things. What do I do now?
You mean the ability to choose?
Yeah. It's finding that clarity and understanding, what you need to do and focus on that.
Yeah, that choosing aspect, it's I see it a lot as connecting to the heart, to connect to, because the heart is very simple in what it wants. The heart normally doesn't ask us 10 things, but the human mind wants everything. And then we have to understand that there are infinite possibilities. We live in infinite possibilities.
Absolutely.
And this is an invitation to choosing.
Wow, that's great.
You gotta choose. You gotta know what you want.
You got to know what the truth is, and you got to have feel like you're the magnet and feel yourself getting pulled towards the truth. That's great. It just seems these days, over the last, I don't know how many years now it's been, but it seems like every day it's getting worse. It seems like society is getting fractured. People are getting disconnected, especially after COVID. Everybody's sort of, gotten into this hibernation mentality, and it seems to be getting worse over time. And people are becoming just more separate. And there's this concept of separation. People have always felt disconnected and separate from spirit and the divine, but now it's separate from each other, which I thought would have actually turned around. I thought after COVID, people would have come together because they're trying to defeat a common enemy, but it seems like it's gone just the opposite direction. So what are you thinking about how people can reconnect in this disconnected world and the feeling of separation of spirit and the divine?
Well, we can tackle it in a few different things. The vibration is definitely one of them, because the higher our frequency, the more connected we are automatically. We don't even try to connect, but we raise our frequency and we just get closer to the divine, and everything just becomes connected. So that is a way that I like working, because the frequency aspect, it solves so many problems that we're fighting at once. The synchronicity, the connection, the joy, the manifestation, the power. It's like everything that we try separately sometimes can be achieved merely by raising our frequency. Another aspect, though, is the self-centeredness. The more selfless we are, the more we connect. So the more we are looking, we were just talking about choices. And to connect with that, in a way, it is important that we know what we want. It gives us direction. And in a world that so many people are confused, we do need to know what we want. But once we know what we want, the answer to getting what we want is not necessarily going after what we want to get it. Sometimes we have to give it. The selflessness. If I want love, I give love. This understanding that everything already exists in me, and I can amplify it by giving it to life. So I do think that what do you want is a good starting point to get clarity. But once we have that answer, it's like, okay, now I have to find a way to give that. And that is how I'm going to get more of it.
It sounds very much like the law of attraction and the law of manifestation, where in order to attract it, you need to create it and give it.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true, in the sense that we have everything inside of us. We all have pain, we all have suffering, we all have love, we all have joy. We all can connect to all those memories and experiences inside of us. We can all amplify them, or we can all reduce them. And it is when we amplify in a way that we cannot hold them within ourselves anymore, when it becomes a natural sharing, that's where we start getting to a frequency of that energy, that it starts resonating with that energy enough for the energy to come back to us. So in a way, we can call it law of attraction, but everything is frequency. That is where I get at the end of every conversation, like everything is frequency. And if you get that to the frequency, you're going to attract that frequency, because frequencies, they attract each other. In the physical plane, we work the other way around, it's polarities. Like there's this magnetic thing between opposites. But in energy, like attracts like. And if you are loving, you're going to be attractive to love. It is about becoming attractive by being that frequency. You're just going to become a magnet.
It's the same. It's the law of magnetic resonance. When you've got the two tuning forks, one's vibrating at a certain note, the other tuning fork will begin to vibrate at that exact same note. Or the same thing with strings on a piano or strings on a guitar. It's resonance. And that's all. That's vibration right there.
Yes. And for instance, a person that says, I want love, but is not feeling love, might look at me and say like, okay, I don't know how to feel love, and I want love, but I don't feel any of it right now, Yeah. And that becomes a work of raising frequency within oneself by not only celebrating life, but clearing and healing and realizing what is it that is taking me away from love. And, there's so many different components that we can work within ourselves of why am I experiencing the opposite? Right. And working on healing that to start slowly building up that frequency.
And that sounds like as within, so without.
Absolutely. That's all it is. Wow. As above, so below, as within, so below. You cannot give what you don't have, and you cannot have what you don't.
Exactly. It's the analogy I use every time to bring it down into a visual component is, it's like every time you go on a flight and the flight attendants say, in the event of depressurization and the air mask comes over you, they always say, put the oxygen mask over your face first, and once you've taken the oxygen, then give it to the other person, because you can't give what you don't have.
Exactly. And that's 100% true. And even when we talk about I have to be well, it is because I can only give joy if I have joy. I can only give light if I have light. So this is a very crucial aspect that when we are in pain, we don't realize that. But once we are past the pain and we are well and full of joy, we realize that the only reason why we need to be in joy is to give joy. It comes in steps, it comes in steps.
Are these some of the myths that we're dispelling now about vibration? I mean, what are some of the myths everybody thinks? Oh gosh, well, vibration. Oh, it's a mumbo jumbo. What are some of the myths that you've come across?
We touched in any part of them before, of people saying that they cannot go to low frequency places or low vibe people. I'm not saying that your life should be about bad stuff, but it's just like, don't have to force yourself to not put yourself in certain situations, because that's inevitable in life, that's part of the work. Another one that I see is that connection of high vibe as being in a state of euphoria. Like if I am in a high frequency, like, everything is ecstasy, woohoo! This is not sustainable. This is not a sustainable way of being.
It'd be nice if it were.
It's easy to get caught up on that and just look for the peak experiences. This is not what it is about. The neutral aspect, to be centered, is extremely high frequency. When we are centered, we have a level of self-mastery and of energy management that can keep us in a very high space and realizing all that has to happen and all the synchronicities, and just flow with it and listen to our intuition and understand what everybody and every situation needs from us. The centeredness, the total presence, is the most precious space when we are in high frequency. And then from there, we can have our peak experiences and we come back. But the one thing that we're looking for is that centeredness. That is the self-mastery.
Yeah, that definitely, because that's one of the things I've always been talking about, is that so many people get caught up in the past or the future. And I say, well, you're expending energy if you go there. Are you able to change anything that happened in the past? Unless you get a time machine? No. How about the future? Are you able to control anything that happens in the future? No, because it hasn't happened yet. The only thing that you can control is the here and now, where you actually are creating the thing that you want, or the timeline that you want in the here and now. So focus on the present, be in the present moment. And
Yes.
that's the centeredness that I think will help somebody move along a higher frequency level.
Yeah, that is extremely important for sure. The presence, and when I say presence, it's not like this necessarily seriousness. There is a beautiful energy of softness and contentment and joy in that place, you know? It's just not the euphoric joy that I'm jumping all the time. I am very joyful, but centered, you know? It's
Centered,
gracious. There's grace to it,
Mm,
you know?
yeah, definitely centeredness, balance, present. Because I always find that in any time that's not in the present, you've got the vibration that's off, because you're worried about something that happened in the past, or you're concerned about something that might happen in the future, and there's negative vibration, or there's lower vibration in both of those, but there's perfect vibration in the now.
Yeah.
It's like Eckhart Tolle has always been talking about the power of now is
Yeah.
huge. So that's great.
That's beautiful. And another important myth, though, not a myth, but a trap. Let's say this is a trap
Okay.
that many people fall into. It is important that we know what we want when we are in a high frequency state. And then it's not in a selfish way. Sometimes it comes from this clear intuition. We just get more aligned with the divine and with our purpose. And it's important that we keep our mind there. Because when we are in a very high frequency, what can happen sometimes is that, again, we think we're invincible, that we can do anything. And in this high level of energy state, we sometimes get too expansive. Our energy is just expanding and going everywhere, and we don't focus anywhere. So remembering why do I have this energy for? What do I want to build? What do I want to give to people? What do I want to give to life? Like, what is my purpose here? Because otherwise, this excess energy can overwhelm you and sidetrack you and take you everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah. And that's
So,
and that's definitely one of the things is going back to the concept of grounding. You've always got to keep that. It's like literally having the grounding outlet, for a plug. You got to have the grounded prong, the three prong to keep you grounded. But it's so important, because so many times we'll hear from guides or spirits saying that while yes, it's wonderful to have the bliss, the incredible, beautiful, highest vibration you possibly can, you can't stay in that position and still live an earthly life, a physical life. If you're able to get to the highest vibration possible, but maintain the grounding of the physical life, then you've got that balance. But if you're just in the highest vibration and just thinking, I'm floating and I'm gone, and you're not going to live a physical life. You can't cope.
Yeah, and we're here to live a physical life, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't come here. So
Right.
knowing how to navigate, and this is why it's so important to manage those things, because when we get to a very high frequency, we need to learn how to pace ourselves, to not get carried away, and know how to come back in a good centered way. So this is all self-mastery.
Yeah, and it all goes right back to balance, knowing you've got to have the balance. You can't have all of one and none of the other. You can't have 100% of the highest vibration possible and none of the grounding. You've got to have the balance between the two.
Yeah, you can be grounded in a high vibration, though.
Yes,
So
of
it's-
course. Yes, yeah. You do have you are able to to raise your equilibrium level. Yes,
Yes.
but it's the grounding that maintains it, so that you're not just floating off like into outer space somewhere, and you're not just dealing with the actuality of the physicality, which by itself is the illusion. That's another question I want to touch on, is the fact that our life is really an illusion. I mean, you touched on it when we first began talking, but because everything is energy, we're actually living an illusion. And so that it seems that based on the fact that we're living an illusion, we can create a life that we truly desire, truly will.
It is an illusion and it isn't at the same time. There are limitations to the illusion, you know? There are certain things we cannot break. It is an illusion created for our growth. So it has certain aspects of it that need to be respected so that we can grow. It's like a school. But many things are illusions. Like fear is just a low frequency. There is no reason to fear. That doesn't mean to be naive. There's a difference between being conscious and be scared, but that we have many illusions and many things that we don't need to fear at all. That we go through pains that are completely unnecessary. Some pains are inevitable, but some pains we just create ourselves because we are in a state that we cannot see clearly. And learning to go through frequencies, we understand that a lot better.
And one of the things I've always been fascinated by is the fact that the brain is only able to comprehend the inputs that it's given. So we're only given limited senses based on senses that we have, but those senses themselves are limited and we can't detect things that are beyond those senses, like ultraviolet light. We can't see that with our eyes, so our eyes are limited. Certain smells, we can't smell certain smells, but dogs can. So it's like our brains are limited in that illusion of what is given by our personal senses, but there's so much beyond what our senses are telling us. It makes me feel like mankind is limited in this little sphere. It's like we're missing out on all the other stuff that's out there.
For sure, we're missing out. I mean, we can also have more spiritual senses that we can awaken them as we grow in our journey. So we can start understanding much more of what's happening. But of course, there's always a limitation. And that is great. I mean, that's part of it, because things can only exist in physicality with limitations. Otherwise, this place wouldn't be even possible, you know? So we come from no limitations. We are souls with no limitations, temporarily under limitation on purpose to learn a few things. So it's there's so much more, and it's beautiful to have that sense of wonder, and at the same time respect the experience for what it is, and understand that sometimes we don't know. We just don't get to know.
Yeah, exactly. It's and that's why I think it's always so fascinating saying that the concept of spirit, the fact that we are energy and that we, as a result, are spirit incarnate, that we are that spirit, which would mean that in reality, that the capability that we have, not necessarily the physical capability, but the creative capability is endless, especially with the mind. The mind's ability to create should be endless.
It is endless, and everything we think exists in the conscious and the collective consciousness. So that goes back to one of the topics we were talking about before, purification, and even being aware of what we're thinking and keeping our mind pure and clear. Super crucial. Much harder, but again, all self-mastery.
Part of the journey. As they say, nothing comes easy.
Nothing comes easy, but it's worth it. It didn't come easy for Buddha or Jesus. It's not going to come easy for us. It's just how it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying, okay, well, I'm going to try to go to the gym and turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger. That would not be easy.
No.
I mean, it might take a long time, but wow, that's will.
Yeah.
Don't think that's going to happen to me now.
Well, it's good that some people have that will to keep inspiring us to keep going forward.
Oh, yeah. They if they're a good role model, that's a great direction to go in. Hopefully that's I guess that's the other thing. So although you were saying, all you want to do, there's the myth that some people say, oh, all you want to do is surround yourself by high vibration people. On the other hand, it is good to have people who are high vibration around you, in that they can be great examples and beams of light to you and say, oh, okay, I'm now attracted to that. I am now pulled to that. And that's a good example of how I should focus.
Absolutely. I mean, having expanders around us is super important. Those people definitely help us grow. and inspiration for sure. So when I say to not have this judgment against people with low vibe or places in low vibe, I don't mean in any way, shape, or form to be in those situations all the time. That would actually harm you. It's just to not have that thing that you cannot go to certain place because of that, to not create those jails. It's smart to have the consciousness that it's not exactly like that. But of course, overall, we do want to keep a high frequency, and we just want to share the frequency even with people who are not there yet. And that's just what it is. It is that place exists many different frequencies, just like we say that we want to be around expanders and people in higher frequencies. But if you think about it, that person is then with you who is a lower frequency than them. So they are not having that criteria, that they are doing their job of bringing their frequency to you. So it's just the same thing.
Interesting. So what if we're, thinking, okay, well, I want to expand my light, my frequency to other people. Let's say I want to go to pick a thing, a soup kitchen, or volunteer somehow. Do you feel that at some point, if you do that too much, you're using up all that energy and electricity in you? It's kind of like a generator runs out of steam?
You need to know how to re-nurture yourself and refill your cup, and then your practices and your self-care, they are always going to be important, and each person has a different speed to that. They have a different system. So we have to dose what is it that works for our own system, but not get on the trap that you are always exhausted, that you don't know how to do it, because then we do need to improve your practices and your self-care. Sometimes we do need to share more. Some people are holding back so much that if they actually shared more, they would be refilled more. So it's really hard to say just one thing, because it really depends on the person's lifestyle and their minds. And sometimes the person's full of stress as well, and their mind is bringing it down as well. And but sometimes I like taking salt baths, like you're always can do clearing things and
Sure.
just self-regulating in nice, pleasurable ways.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? So now you're also an energy healer. Obviously, you've been talking about vibration and energy. How about your energy healing journey? What do you do? Is it like Reiki or spiritual healing, or are you literally feeling their energy, and seeing their energy as Donna? I forget her last name. There are certain people who actually get to see the energy and where
Mhm.
they're blocked energy. So how do you work with energy?
I give like over 20 different types of methodology with healings. They all come from, I am initiating different lineages, and all of the healings that I give are from the lineage of King Solomon. They are quite specific in what they do. So I can remove negative energy from people, or card cut, or clear their aura, or protect their aura, or put sacred geometries in them, opening channels for new types of communication, or give them activations to foster new pathways between them and their higher self, so that they can have more clarity, so that they can be brought back to their purpose. So it's I have a very big array of healing sessions that I can give depending on what the person needs.
That's fascinating. I love the idea of clearing the neural pathways so you can get a stronger clarity and connection to your higher self. I've never
Mm.
heard of that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it's something that I really love about the lineage and the healings that I've been trained to serve. We do have a really good mastership in manipulating energy. I know that sounds bad for some people, manipulating energy, maybe directing energy. But at the
Okay.
end of the day, this is what we're doing all the time. Every thought we have is directing energy. So what we're really highly trained on is how to bring this cosmic energy to do very specific things that the person needs.
Wow. That's interesting. This has been a fabulous conversation. I wish we could just go on for hours and hours and hours. Oh my God, I'd be here for days. But if you were to, talk to a listener, what would be one piece of advice that you think they could take away today and perhaps implement themselves?
Wow, there's so many things that I love saying, but one of my favorite quotes is that do everything as if it is all that matters, and do it knowing it doesn't matter at all. So I love bringing this perspective that we give ourselves fully to what we love and to what we give, but without that attachment that hurts us, knowing that in the end it's an experience and it's play and it's love. So for me, duality is a lot about that, holding the two places at the same time.
Beautiful. That's great. Well, I gotta say, Aileen, thank you so much for being on today. This was fabulous, and yeah, I wish we could just keep on going. But this has just been, I feel like I've just been fed a giant meal, where my stomach's beginning to extend with all this information. It's just like, wow, lots of information, but I love it. This is fabulous. So again, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast talking to you. I can also talk about this forever and ever.
Oh, I bet. It sounds it. It sounds it. Oh, great. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening. I hope you got something out of this today. Hope it really kind of helped you and perhaps enables you to raise your vibration, bit by bit, start with that foundation and then just walk forward in baby steps that way. And with that, what I want to do is thank you for listening. And if you enjoy what you've been hearing, and like and subscribe, so that way you'll keep on hearing more episodes just like this. And write in and let us know what you like to hear, who you'd like to have on. And with that, what I am sending you love and light. And this is Chris, and I am saying goodbye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.